At this point, we will take a look at the attributes of this class. So by now you should be familiar with class. And we see that we have a list of strings. So I cover strings in this playlist, Python for Beginners, Basics of Digital Audio Processing and Machine Learning for Audio. And here on the tutorial 4F, I talk about Python numbers and strings. I also cover NumPy arrays in one of these tutorials here, but I noticed that I don't cover Python lists. So we're going to talk about Python lists. For strings, I point you to this tutorial 4F, and here we will cover basics of numbers and strings. And now we'll take a look at Python lists. So a list is a built-in Python sequence similar to an array, and a sequence is an iterable which supports efficient element access using integer indices, and there are some special methods. So in a simpler way, lists are used to store multiple items in a single variable. So lists are one of the 4 built-in data types in Python used to store collections of data. And similar to lists, we have tuples, sets, and dictionaries, each one with its own characteristics, methods, and applications. So lists have several methods. We can append or add an item to the end of a list. We can extend lists. We can insert an item in a given position. We can remove items. We can pop. We can clear. We can return zero-based index in the list of the first item whose value is equal to something, for example. We can count, that return the number of times a value appears in the list. We can sort. We can reverse. So let's move on to examples. So here we have a list with some strings, and these strings, they relate to some intervals used by the Music21 library. So we have the root, or the perfect fourth, first, let's call it. We have a minor second, a major second, minor third, major third, a perfect fourth, diminished fifth, perfect fifth, augmented fifth, and so on. So we have a list of strings. So let's do an example here. Now suppose I want to access this value here. So in Python, indexes starts from 0, so this is element 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. So if I have my list and I want to access element 1, and I have this minor second. One interesting thing is if I want to access the last element and I don't want to count, or I don't know which one is the last element, I can use it as -1 and I get my last elements. And I can also use negative indexes to get, for example, this, the last but one, so is the -2, and I have the minor 7 interval. I can also append another interval, so let's put the perfect 8, the octave, to my list, and then I have now my perfect 8. And I can, for example, now pop, and I removed the last element. So here in this documentation you find a lot of methods that you can use with lists, and we can also have lists with different types of elements. So I can create a list, And this list will contain an integer, it will contain a string, it will contain a dictionary. We can have a dictionary, so the key A has a value of 1, and then our list has an integer, a string, and a dictionary. So when we have different elements, it will not be possible to sort a list, because we are trying to sort things that have different meanings. But if we have a list, for example, of numbers, so let's put 3, 4, 5, 8, 10, and then I can sort. First let's look at this list. So it's 3, 2, 4, 8, 10, but if I sort, we look at the list. Now I have 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 8, and 10. So this is what we're using here. I'm using this list of intervals because on the next line I will refer to this list of intervals, and I will create music21 intervals. So and we are going to take a look in the next tutorial.